share with you tonight a thought that the Lord gave me this week. It encouraged me, and so I hope it will encourage you. The title of the message tonight is simply this: God has more for you. God has more for you. There's a common tendency among Christians that we will get this false idea that God must be done with me. Perhaps it's in a trial or a difficult time in our lives, maybe a burdensome time in our lives, where we begin to think, well, God must just be finished with me. Maybe it's a time where God tells you to wait. He said, I just need you to wait, and you're not hearing from God like you might want to be here, or you're used to maybe hearing from God. And in those times, we think, well, God must just be finished with me. Maybe there's an age where when you get to a certain age, you begin to look back over all that God's done in your life, and you begin to think, well, He's done a lot for me in the past, and maybe He's used me in the past, but I feel like God must be done with me at this point. At this stage, God's done with me. I believe tonight that as long as you have air in your lungs, as long as you're breathing, as long as you're still kicking along, then God has a purpose for you. God has more for you. I believe that as long as you've got air in your lungs, as long as you are breathing, then God is not finished with you, but there is a divine purpose for your life, and God is going to present those opportunities to you as you allow Him to do so. God has more for you. Babies are wonderful. I love my little girl. She's the most beautiful little girl in the whole entire world. You cannot convince me otherwise, so just don't even try. She's got me wrapped around her finger. I love that little girl to pieces. I would do anything for her, but I'm just going to be honest, she's a little weird, okay? I don't know if you've seen her crawling around. You see how she crawls? What baby crawls like that? She don't move like on all fours like a normal baby. She drags that little leg along behind her like she's handicapped or something. She just scoots along the floor. She's a little bit strange. Well, she can't say many words. She says dad sometimes when she wants to, and she says uh-oh when she throws her bottle off of her high chair. But other than that, she really don't say a whole lot of words. But she's learning how to do sign language. And so she's learning to say different words. She says, when she's all finished, she knows she can say all done, and she waves her little arms around, and she says all done. When she says please, when you say please in sign language, you just kind of rub your chest like this right here. She almost got that figured out. If I'm holding her and I say please, she won't rub her chest. She'll reach over and rub my chest. And so yeah, she's a little weird, but she's getting there. She's figuring it out. Her favorite thing to sign, her favorite sign by far though, is this one right here. This is more. She wants more. She wants more. She knows how to do this. She knows what it means, and she knows that if she does it to me, she can get whatever she wants. And so she'll be eating, or I'll give her a bite of something that I'm eating, and she'll get it in her stomach, and as soon as it's gone, sometimes even before it's gone, she's doing this right here. She wants more. I think it would be good sometimes for Christians to go like this right here to God. Our Father. Say, I want more. Now, obviously, I'm not talking about materially tonight. I'm not talking about asking Him for a new house or a new car or a bigger bank account. I'm not asking Him for those things, but I'm speaking spiritually tonight. God, I want more spiritually. I want more of you. I want you to do more with me. And like that little baby girl when you're holding her and she wants more of something that she's liked, man, I wonder how God would feel if His people came before Him. We, His children, come before Him and like a little child just say, I just want more of you. I just want more of that goodness. I want more of those blessings. God, I need more. I'm here to tell you tonight that God has more for you. He has an endless supply for His people. He has purpose. He has more purpose. He has more opportunities. He's got more grace. He's got more mercy. He's got more blessings. He's got more goodness. God has more But so many of us get caught up in a problem or caught up in the things of the world, or we get distracted by something and we find ourselves just kind of going through the motions, and God can't get our attention, and we're not asking Him to do anything else, and so He's just waiting on us. He said, I can't get your attention. You're all worked up over this, or you're all stressed out over that, or you're so busy doing this thing. I can't get a hold of you. I have more for you, but you're just going to have to slow down a little bit and let me get your attention. In our passage, this is, I believe, exactly what's going to take place. I'm going to read you one verse tonight, and then we're going to look around and notice some applications from some other verses. But I just want us to read verse 24. Genesis chapter 32, verse 24. And Jacob was left alone, and there wrestled a man with him until the breaking of the day. This is a very popular passage of Scripture. I'm sure that you have heard this passage of Scripture preached before. You've probably read it many times before. Let me give you some brief context and bring you up to where Jacob is at on this night where he's getting ready to, what he thinks, meet his fate. 21 years before this night, Jacob had done something very deceitful. He dressed up like his older brother Esau, who was out hunting, and he goes in before their dad Isaac, and he deceives their father into giving him the birthright that belonged to the older brother Esau. Esau finds out about Jacob's deceit, that Jacob stole the birthright from him. And Esau says, I am going to kill you. I'm going to kill you. The blessing that belonged to Esau as the oldest, Jacob stole, and Esau swore that he would kill him. So Jacob flees. He flees to the Mesopotamia area where he spends 7 years working for his uncle Laban. He spends 7 years working for Laban because he wants to marry Laban's daughter, Rachel. Well, the deceiver gets deceived on his wedding night, and when he wakes up, it's not Rachel, it's Leah. So he ends up working 7 other years so that he can then marry the woman that he loved, Rachel. And then, for some reason, he decides to stick around for about 7 more years and work for Laban. At the end of 21 years of working for Uncle Laban, Jacob said it's time to go. He packs up his stuff and he leaves without telling Laban. Laban doesn't appreciate that very much. He gets upset at Jacob. They have a little meeting where they talk it out like men, and they make an agreement, and they part ways. Laban's not too happy with Jacob. Jacob says it's time to leave Laban, and so they just kind of agree to disagree. They part ways. A few days later, we find Jacob here in Genesis 32. He's now less than a day away from meeting his brother Esau. He's on his way home. Waiting at home is his brother Esau, who 21 years ago said, I'm going to kill you if I ever see you again. You deceived me, you stole what was mine, and now I'm going to kill you. And so Jacob prepares this elaborate plan where he's going to send plenty of gifts and animals and try to appease Esau. And then he breaks the people in his company up into 3 different parts. And he said, here's the plan, everybody. This is what we're going to do. Tomorrow when the sun comes up, here's the plan. We're going to give it our best shot. They're at a location where there's a brook, the brook of Jabbok. And Jacob sends all of them, his family, and everybody on the other side. And now we enter our story where we pick up tonight, and we find Jacob in verse number 24. Jacob was left alone. For some reason, Jacob turns around and he goes back over the brook all by himself. The Bible doesn't tell us why. Maybe it was to pray. I'm not sure why Jacob goes back over the brook, but I can imagine if it were me, why I would go back over the brook. I think that Jacob is probably thinking this could be the end. I mean, maybe God is really done with me this time. I've worked 21 years. Maybe my sins have finally called it up to me. This might be the last peaceful night of sleep. This might be the last night of sleep I ever get. Tomorrow when I go to Esau, it could not go well. I'm sure that there is so much anxiety inside of Jacob, so much nervousness. He has no idea what's going to take place tomorrow. He has no idea what God is doing. And if it were me, there would probably be some great discouragement, probably some depression, a whole lot of anxiety as I'm thinking about the fact that I think God's done with me and this is the end of the road. Now, there's 3 things that are going to take place to Jacob on this night, and I want you to see them. The first thing that we find that happens to Jacob as God is going to come to him and tell him, hey, I'm not finished with you. The first thing that we find is that Jacob was alone with God. Jacob had to get alone with God. He takes all of the possessions that he has. He takes his wife and his children all over, his wives and his children on the other side. He takes all of his servants to the other side. He takes all of his animals to the other side. He takes everything that he has and he puts it on the other side of the brook. And then Jacob goes back on this side and he's all alone. Sounds like a country song, don't it? His wife left, his animals left, his servants left, everybody left. And Jacob's all alone now on this side of the brook. You know, God does His greatest work sometimes when we feel the most alone. This is what I would call a barren season for Jacob. He's barren. He's empty. God has separated him from everything that he sees as valuable. The pursuits of the world are on the other side of the creek. The passions of the world are on the other side of the creek. All of Jacob's possessions, they're on the other side of the creek. God has now separated Jacob and got him all by himself, all alone. You know, this is good for you and I to do sometimes too. Just get alone. Leave everything behind. I'm going to get alone. I'm just going to think about it. I'm going to pray about it. I don't need to talk to anybody. There's a lot going on. I feel the anxiety. There's thoughts in my mind that are telling me God might be finished with me. Maybe this is the end. I don't know what else God could do. I don't know how else God could move. Maybe this is it. So I'm just going to separate from all of the busyness. I'm going to separate from all of the pursuits and the passions and the possessions of the world, and I'm just going to get alone. Jacob had all this anxiety. I don't know if he went on that side to find God, but what I do know is that God found him. And sometimes God can use your greatest anxiety as a tool to get your attention. Sometimes God can take the thing that you're most worried about, and when you just don't know what to do, that you just throw it all away and you said, I've just got to be alone for a minute, and you go and you leave everything behind to clear your mind. That's when God can step in and touch you. This was a barren, barren time for Jacob. I would not think that this was a spiritual high for Jacob, understanding the circumstances. I don't think that Jacob is going over here to have a moment of personal worship where he's just going to praise God. I think he's going over here to reflect and to say, this could be it. These could be the last peaceful minutes I ever have in my life. This could be the very end. God might be finished with me. But I want you to notice number 2. Not only did Jacob get alone with God, but number 2, Jacob was altered by God. He was altered. He was changed by God. It could be that God is simply trying to separate you from all the things that have you distracted so that He can touch you in a special way. That's what happens to Jacob. In verse 25, we find in 24 there, Jacob is left alone and there wrestled a man with him until the breaking of the day. Verse 25, and when he saw that he prevailed not against him, he, that is the man, or it's the angel of the Lord, it's a Christophany, it's Christ, he touched the hollow of his, that's Jacob's thigh. And the hollow of Jacob's thigh was out of joint as he wrestled with him. While Jacob is left alone, pondering his barren season, God bursts onto the scene and literally attacks Jacob. We don't find Jacob here seeking after the Lord or trying to have a great moment of intercession. He prayed earlier in the chapter, but we don't find him doing anything right now. But God comes and wrestles with Jacob. God comes and gets Jacob's attention. onto the scene comes God. Jacob is all alone, and God said, now I can get your attention, Jacob. God burst onto the scene. He attacks Jacob, and he touches Jacob's thigh so that Jacob can no longer run. You think about the life of Jacob, this is what he's done for the last 20 years. He ran when Esau said he was going to kill him. He ran from Laban. He spent his entire life running and deceiving and running and deceiving and running and deceiving. And God said, I'm going to touch your thigh, Jacob, and you're no longer going to be able to run. You're going to limp. You're going to limp. This is Jacob's broken season. He was barren. He's no longer barren. Now God is with him, but God is breaking him. God is breaking him. We like to think of the touch of God on someone's life as bringing breakthrough, right? When God touches someone, well, there's breakthrough. Sometimes when God touches someone, it brings brokenness before it brings breakthrough. He touches Jacob's thigh, and it comes out of joint so that Jacob can no longer run. God is changing the identity of Jacob through this broken season. Sometimes we think we can do everything by ourselves. We feel like we can get out of any situation that might come our way. We feel like we can overpower anything that happens to us. Often in these moments of pride, God will come and He will touch us and He will break us down. He says, hey, I'm trying to bless you. I have more for you, but you cannot receive the more that I have for you until I have broken you all the way down. You notice what it does to Jacob. He goes from fighting and wrestling to clinging, to holding on. And he said, I'm not letting you go. We've been fighting all night. And now you have scarred me. You have broken me. So I am not letting go until you bless me. And he begins to cling. Hey, listen, God is breaking us sometimes so that we will learn to just hold on to Him. And stop trying to do everything in our own strength. Stop trying to do everything in our own power. Stop trying to find all the answers in ourselves. We can't fix anything in and of ourselves. But if we will just hold on to the one who has all power, He can bring miracles through our lives through His divine presence. But we got to hold on. Another thing that I see about this brokenness is that Jacob was changed in his identity. God broke Jacob. But Jacob didn't allow the brokenness to bring him bitterness. He learned to love his limp. And some of us tonight need to go back to the place where God broke us. And we need to learn to love the limp that He gave us there. Because from that moment on in our life, we have been walking angry at God, bitter at God, because He scarred me. He hurt me. He did that to me. And we blame God and we get bitter at God instead of loving the fact that God broke us down. And we might completely miss the blessing because we leave the place of brokenness bitter at God. So we've got to learn to love the limp. Yeah, I've got a limp. Yeah, God changed my identity. God took that from me. God broke me. He took all of the answers away from me so that all I had left was to hold on to Him. And I love Him more for it. I love the limp. I love the limp. Sometimes God's breaking us down. Because number 3, not only do we find that Jacob was alone with God and he was altered by God, but Jacob now gets adamant with God. Perhaps God is breaking you simply because He has more for you than you could ever imagine. There's more opportunities. There's more things in the future. God has more places for you to go, more people for you to influence, more lives for you to impact, but He can't give you the blessing until He's broken you away from all of the things that you think are the blessing. So now Jacob gets adamant with God. Verse number 26, watch what Jacob says. And he said, let me go, for the day breaketh. And he said, Jacob, I will not let thee go, except thou bless me. Jacob said, I'm not letting go, Lord. I'm not turning loose. I'm not going to stop, because you've got a blessing for me, and I'm not going to let you go until I get it. This was Jacob's blessed season. This was Jacob's blessed season. He said, hey, God, if you really have more for me, then you're going to give it to me. You're going to bless me, Lord. Now, understand, Jacob is not asking, I don't believe he's asking for material blessings. Jacob has realized that his only hope is God. If he's going to survive meeting his brother tomorrow, it will only be by God. If he's going to live another day, it will only be through God. So he's hanging on for dear life, literally, saying, God, I want more. I need more of you. You're my only hope. I realize it. I can't fight from everything. I can't run from everything. I can't always make it a way out. I can't always come up with an answer. So God, I want more of you. I am not letting go until you bless me with your presence. I need you tomorrow when we meet Esau. Lord, I need you from there on in my life. Every day, give me more of you. You've got a blessing. You've broken me all the way down. I have nothing left. I can't even run. So I'm just going to hold on to you. This is the blessed season in Jacob's life. He said, I'm going to hold on until I get the blessing. And what was the blessing? Well, it was demonstrated for us by a name change. He was Jacob. It means heel catcher, deceiver, someone who can trip you, someone who can deceive you. And that was Jacob's identity. That's what he was known for up to this point in his life. But God gives him a new name. It's the name Israel. It means God fights. It's twofold. It would remind Jacob of the night when he fought with God. But it would also remind Jacob that it was God who was now fighting for him. It was God who was going to be on his side. It was God who was going to take him through. It was God who was going to be the answer. It was God who was going to be his hope. He may not always know what God was doing. He may not always have the answers, but he could hold on to the Lord and God would make a way. God would fight for him. God had more for Jacob. So much more. Jacob's life was just beginning at this moment of all that God had for him. But Jacob wasn't prepared for it because he was so focused on his problem. I believe tonight that God has more for you. God has more for me. God has more for this church. We're not finished yet. We're not done yet. We've still got air in our lungs. We've still got this place to meet. We still have a community of lost souls. The fields are wide unto harvest. God has a purpose. God has a plan. Like we talked about on Sunday, God has that divine conclusion that He's going to bring to pass. God has more. What's it going to take for us to get to a place to say, God, we're just going to hang on to you. You can take us as far as you want to go, but we've got to cling to you and you alone. I'm tired of trying to find all the answers on my own. I don't want to have to go through the brokenness that Jacob had to go through. Whatever you want to teach me, Lord, I'm just going to hold on to you. I'm holding on. I'm along for the ride. If there's trials, I'll go through them with you. If there's difficulties, I'll go through them with you. If there's anxiety, I'll go through it with you. God, whatever you're trying to do, I'm going to hang on because I know you're the only hope that I have. Jacob got the new name. Jacob got the blessing. Sometimes God has to put us through a season of brokenness before He can unleash the season of blessing. Here's my question to you tonight. How will you respond to God's wrestling with you? How will you respond to God's wrestling with you? Are you barren tonight? You feel alone in the world, like, I've lost everything. I don't have anything anymore. I don't have no hope. I don't know what God could do with me. Maybe you're broken tonight. You say, I really don't have any idea what God's trying to do. But I am as broken as I can be. God's got a blessing for you. God has more for you. Would you rest in Him? Trust His breaking process, and you will find the blessing that was promised. If you will trust His breaking process, you will find the blessing promised. I don't know where you're at in your life tonight, but I think it would do us all well to say, God, we're going to hold on to You. Give us more. Give us more. In our church, give us more. In our families, give us more. In our devotion time, give us more. We want more. We can't build a church on people. We can't build a church with programs. We can't build a church with performances. But we can build a church in this location by trusting in the Lord Jesus Christ and saying, give us more. Just give us more. Give us more lost souls. Give us more passion. Give us more mercy and grace and love for the lost. Give us more. I don't know where you're at in your life, but maybe tonight you just need to say, when I pray in a minute, you just need to bow a head and say, God, I just want more. I don't know how you're going to work it out, but I want more of You. Would you bow and pray with me this evening?